Okay, so let's finish this public key algorithms concept with certificates. So we say that, we have private key and public keys in this public key cryptography, but the question is, how can I make my public keys public, right? How can I distribute this knowledge to other people so they can communicate with me? If they want to send me a message like using RSA, they have to know my public key for encryption. But in digital signature algorithms, they have to know my public key to verify my signature. So how can I share this knowledge? So you can make a public announcement, right? You can put it into your web page saying that this is my public key. If you want to send an email, just use this. This is what PGP did in the past, right? You can do this, but of course, this is not a good idea, right? Somebody might claim that they are me by taking a web page, like registering something like cihangirtezcan.com and, impersonate me and, communicate with people, just putting a public key there, and people will think that they're communicating with me. So public announcement doesn't work all the time. You cannot put all of your public keys on the internet and make it easily foundable, right? Second solution is publicly available directory. So think about 90s. We had yellow phone books, which kept a list of everybody's name, almost everybody, and their phone numbers, right? We could do such a directory, but it didn't work, right? Even in the past, when you use that yellow phone books, when you call somebody, you realize that actually that person, moved like 10 years ago, and you are calling the new person living in that home. So it will be hard to update and keep it up to date, right? So this solution also not that good. Another solution is to have a public key authority. So somebody who keeps all of these public keys, right? Somehow we trust them and we ask them and use this. So this is a nice idea, but in practice, it cannot work, right? Think about visiting a web page all the time. Instead of visiting that web page, you go to this public authority and ask what their public key is. So if you do this, the whole internet has to go to this public key authority and cause a distributed denial of service attack, right? So nice idea, but is not, scalable and does not work all the time. So for this reason, we prefer to use public key certificates, okay? So let's see how this works. So there are some standards, but the basic idea is as follows. So there are some trusted third parties, certificate authorities. So I create my public key there and they certify it actually. So idea is as follows. So here we show it in terms of Bob's information. So Bob's, you create a signed certificate like this. So Bob's ID information, Bob's public key, and certificate authority information is your kind of a plain text, let's say. But the certificate authority does the following. They calculate the hash of it, okay? And the certificate authority signs this with their private key and put it at the end of the certificate. So this is a signed certificate now, okay? So whenever, for instance, we are visiting a web page and that web page has a certificate like this. So what your browser does the following. When they see the certificate, they actually verify it by using the public key of the certificate authority's public key. And, obtain the hash value and check if this hash matches this one. So think about it this way. Your browser has the public keys of many certificate authorities. So instead of asking anybody else, you directly take the certificate from the web page you are visiting, and your browser verifies that it is valid. This is why you see generally a green tick or a headlock symbol showing that this certificate is authentic and it is real. So this only means that from this point on, you are going to use this public key or anything so during this communication, okay? So there are many standards, like for the X.5 on the 9 certificate. So it has many versions, like in the first version, you have the headers like version, certificate serial number, algorithms and parameters. These are the, algorithms you are going to use or support. So this is why when you visit a web page and look at the certificate, you will see that it is like RSA 2048 or something. These parameters are here. And period of validity is also here. You know, it tells you in which period it is valid. You know, subject name, you know, subject public key information. So this is actually signed by the certificate authority. So its validity is already signed. So after some point on, even if the certificate is valid, if it is expired, the browser will not accept it, okay? Because the certificate would be correct, but its validity, you know, expired. So, of course, if you do this when the certificate authority signs a certificate like this and put a validity like 10 years later, this doesn't allow you to revoke it instantly because here you signed it, right? So this is why we have certificate revocation list. And if you create a certificate and the certificate authority wants to delete it, they have to announce it. So there's a revocation list like this. So browsers also check if that certificate is revoked or not. Okay. So of course you can keep this in a server. Somebody suggests to use it, put them on a blockchain and so on, but you can do whatever you want. Okay. So we talk a lot about public key algorithms and parameters. So let's see how it matches with the world of symmetric key cryptography. So I used this table before. It is important because these are the NIST recommendation for key length. So NIST says that 112-bit security most probably will be secure until 2030. So you can use triple DES, for instance, to provide this security level. But they also said that we are planning to remove triple DES in 2024. So today is January 4, 2024. So 4 days ago, triple DES is removed from NIST standards. So it is no longer there. So although we say that 112-bit most probably secure today, let's not rely on it, right? This is why we suggest to people to use at least 128-bit security. I mean, there's no point on living on the edge, right? Maybe in 2030, all of your communication will be broken. So we suggest 128-bit security for personal use. So in order to achieve this security, you can use AES 128. You can use SHA 256, right? But if you want to use RSA, your factoring modulus should be 3072 bits. If you use discrete logarithm, for instance, digital signature algorithm or ALGAMAL, your key has to be 256 bit, but your group size should be 3072 bits, as in the case of RSA. But if you use elliptic curves, it is enough to choose an elliptic curve, which is as a group size larger than 256 bits, as in the case of Bitcoin. So this is for minimum security we suggest, okay? But if you want to have military-grade security, we suggest you to have 256-bit security. So you can use AES 256. But as you can see, due to sub-exponential time algorithms that break factorization problem, this increase is not a multiple of 2, right? This is like multiple of 5. So you need to choose your factoring modulus as 15,360 bits. Imagine designing a hardware that does RSA 15,360. These are huge numbers. So building such a hardware might be really costly. This is why we always suggest elliptic curves for public key algorithms, because in order to provide this security, all you need to have an elliptic curve of 512 bits. Of course, if you are using many algorithms in your system, you have to keep them all in the same security level. You cannot use AES 256 with SHA-1 in the same system, because now your security is reduced to 80-bit security. So if you are going to use all of these cryptographic algorithms, for symmetric key encryption, use AES 256. For elliptic curves, use 512 bits secret keys or groups larger than this. Or use SHA 512 or SHA-3 512, okay? So this is what we suggest for military-grade security, and this is what we suggest for personal use. So this is the minimum you should have. So let's talk about quantum computers. So integer factorization, discrete logarithm, and elliptic curve discrete logarithm problems can be solved in polynomial time on a quantum computer if you can build such a huge quantum computer. And actually, we don't know if we can do it. Okay? Quantum computers reduce the security of symmetric key cryptography to half. So it is enough to double the key size, for instance, moving from AS128 to AS256. But one thing to notice is that, yes, such a huge quantum computer can break AS128 by performing 2 to the 64 operations. But this is not, these operations are not going to be done on classical computers. They are going to be done on quantum computers. So performing 2 to the 64 operations might not be practical for a huge quantum computer anyway. So at the symmetric key crypto side, we don't much care about quantum computers. But we need quantum safe algorithms for public key cryptography. So elliptic curve cryptography infrastructure can still be used, but with a quantum safe problem instead of the discrete logarithm problem. For example, finding isogenies between elliptic curves. This is considered as one of the quantum safe problems. So there are some candidates in post-quantum cryptography competition, in NIST competition, where the algorithms were based on finding isogenies, but they couldn't make it to the final round, as far as I remember. So let's recall the NSA's announcement about quantum computers. So in the past, NSA always supported elliptic curve cryptography and suggested migration from RSA to elliptic curve in the future. So NSA always said that get rid of RSA, move on to elliptic curve cryptography. But in 2015, NSA suggested not to waste time migrating from from RSA to elliptic curve, but they suggested development, standardization, and commercialization of new quantum safe algorithms. Because elliptic curve cryptography and RSA are not quantum safe. This announcement puzzled many people as if somebody is getting close to building a quantum computer. However, considering the budget of NSA and how much they reserve for post-quantum cryptography, it is highly unlikely that they're about to build a quantum computer. IBM constantly increased their capacity, saying that now we have 145 qubits of quantum computers and so on. But there's a huge noise in these quantum computers. So current technology is not available to break all of these systems. So maybe it might be a waste of time focusing too much on the post-quantum cryptography, okay? So, but still, for future, like for 2050 or 2060s, yeah, it might be necessary. But today, we don't directly need a post-quantum cryptography. So, of course, if you want to, if you use a public key algorithm today and you want to keep that information secure 100 years later, yes, you need post-quantum cryptography. Because most probably 100 years later, maybe we will have such a quantum computer to break today's public key algorithms. But my personal opinion from this NSA's policy change is that there was a backdoor in dual elliptic curve, deterministic random bit generator algorithm, and that backdoor was introduced by NSA. So this is why NSA actually wanted people to use elliptic curve so that that random number generator will be there so that they can break the system. But since we discovered this backdoor and we are no longer using it, this is why actually NSA suggests to stay at RSA, because there are many attacks on RSA and it's a little bit easier to attack RSA than elliptic curve. So if you're more interested, there's a very nice paper by Neil Koplis and Alfred Menezes titled Iridium Wrapped in an Enigma. They argue that elliptic curve cryptography will stay secure for some time.